Hey everyone, have you ever wondered if there's more to life than the endless, constant hustle and bustle, go, 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 go? What if part of the answer is written in the Bible? Yeah, in the Bible. Something I dare say most people, including those who profess Christianity, ignore. And I'm talking about the Sabbath. Now, not only am I talking about the Sabbath day in the sense of the weekly cycle, but there's also annual Sabbaths known as God's holy days. So today we're going to dig into the scriptures and we're going to see why these aren't just old rules, they're God's design for a meaningful life.
It says it very clearly in the scriptures. For 6 days you shall work, on the seventh day you shall rest. And we do a really bad job of that as American Christians. We do a horrible job of honoring the Sabbath. In fact, the word in Hebrew literally means Shabbat, which means to stop, to cease all of activity.
The Sabbath is the first thing mentioned in Genesis chapter 2, verses 2 through 3. Right after God created the world. What did he do? Well, it says he rested on the seventh day and he blessed it. Yeah, God actually created. He creates for 6 days, and on the seventh day, God actually rested. Then we go a little bit further into the story, and then we see there in Exodus chapter 20, and we should all know that in Exodus 20 we find all the 10 commandments listed. And in verses 8 through 11, God commands, remember, don't forget, remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. Now, this isn't a suggestion. It's not a maybe. It's not if you feel like it or when you get around to it. This is a commandment from our Creator, from the very being who made us in the first place. And one of his 10 commandments is remember the Sabbath day and keep it holy. The Sabbath is a very, very special thing. It's a sign of our relationship with our God, a relationship between creation and creator. And it's a weekly reminder that he made the world, this world that he has shared with us and that we live in, and that we trust him to provide for our every need. So when we observe the seventh day, and I want you to notice something. I said the seventh day. Because if I would have said a seventh day, now I would be interjecting to you Michael Ellertson's opinion. And I'm not about doing that. We're not talking, my friends, about a seventh day. We are to observe the seventh day. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, Sabbath. So when we observe the seventh day, we are taking a break, but we're doing more than just taking a break. We are following God's law. We are honoring our Creator, and then we are aligning ourselves with His rhythm. And yes, the Saturday Sabbath is still relevant today as it was 100 years ago, 500 years ago, 2,000 years ago. The Sabbath is still relevant. The Bible also talks about God's holy days or appointed times. They're listed in Leviticus chapter 23. Now, they're found all throughout the scriptures, but I like to reference Leviticus 23 because they're all listed together in that one chapter. And these are annual Sabbaths. And these include the Passover and the Feast of Unleavened Bread, Pentecost, as it's called in the New Testament, trumpets, Day of Atonement, tabernacles, and there's the last great day or the eighth day. And these aren't random, meaningless holidays. Now, I know that might be a little bit offensive to say a meaningless holiday, but these are holy days. And holy days are very different than holidays. You know, so many of us, so many people in our world, and even those who claim Christianity, they have forgotten why we're here. Why were we born? Where is all this heading? And when all is said and done, what's going to happen? See, the holidays don't teach anything in that regard. We learn those lessons and those teachings from the holy days given by God. Days that teach us wonderful spiritual lessons, and they point us toward his plan of salvation for all mankind. We worship a loving, merciful God, and it is his will that all man be saved. For example, we could look at the Passover, which points to Jesus' sacrifice. And, 1 Corinthians 5:7 is certainly a reference verse. Acts chapter 2, we see there about the Feast of Pentecost. And Pentecost is just a Greek term. It means count 50. Refers to, again, it's referred to in the Old Testament as well. It shows God's Spirit coming to empower his people. Observing these days helps us remember. And I tell you what, as human beings, we're creatures of habit. We have to be constantly reminded, because otherwise we just forget. And when we observe these days annually, over and over and over, the weekly Sabbath, week after week after week, it helps us to remember God's plan. They're not just for history and, looking back, but it's relevant, so extremely relevant for our lives today and prophetically for the future. What's going to happen? Some people will say, well, we don't have to keep these anymore. And of course, the age old one, I love this one. Oh, they're Jewish. No, they're not. You know, the Bible doesn't say the Sabbath was made for the Jew. Now, it would include the Jew, but it says the Sabbath was made for man. And Jesus himself in Matthew 5:17. We can turn there. Matthew 5:17. And again, I hope you'll take your Bible and you'll go read this for yourself. Don't take my word for it. Prove it for yourself. Matthew 5:17, when Jesus said, "Do not think that I have come to abolish the law." He said, I'm not doing away with it. I'm not getting rid of it. I didn't come to abolish the law. I have come not to abolish it, but to fulfill the law. In other words, to fill it to the full. So, just as an example, if you take a glass and it's half full of water, Jesus is not saying I'm coming to dump the rest of the water out. He's saying I'm going to fill the glass to the full. So the weekly Sabbath and even the holy days, or what we would call the annual Sabbaths, they weren't done away with. Matter of fact, just the opposite. Not only are we being taught in our New Testament to keep them in truth, but also in spirit, because they point us to Jesus, they point us to God's kingdom. Observing the Sabbath and observing the holy days isn't about legalism. I hear that one as well. You're being legalistic and you're trying to be like those Pharisees. No, I'm not trying to save myself. I'm just trying to obey God. I'm just trying to walk in God's ways, and it's my hope. And the reason I do these programs is because I want that for you. Why would I want that? Because I know it's a way to set our lives apart. I know it's a way to honor God. I know it's a way to grow spiritually. How do I know that? Because I have been keeping the Sabbath and holy days my entire life. And so I know. And that's why I'm sharing it here today with you. We live in a very busy world. It's kind of a paradox, because we have so many modern conveniences, yet we so many of us still all have the same complaint. I just don't have enough time. I just don't have enough time. What a paradox. So in today's busy world, when we are talking about the subject of the Sabbath, for instance, it's a way to refocus us on what really matters. If you really want the truth on this subject, I'd like to point you to a booklet that has been a great help for me, and I'd like to share it with you. It's a booklet entitled "Which Day is the Christian Sabbath?" It was written by Mr. Herbert W. Armstrong. Again, the title of that booklet, "Which Day is the Christian Sabbath?" Written by Herbert W. Armstrong. Incredibly important book, goes into far more depth than I can do in this short program. If you want to connect with God's plan and you want to experience His rhythm in your life, a great starting point is to learn about the Sabbath and then by extension, God's holy days. Study them in your Bible. Again, it's easy for me to stand here and say these things to you, but don't just take my word for it. Go back to your Bible. Get your Bible, blow the dust off of it, open it up, and start digging in and looking. Study these things in your Bible. And as you start studying them, learning about them, proving them, because you're going to see that they're there, I'm confident of that, then you take the next step and you observe them. And when God shares his truth with you and then you act on that truth and you start observing that truth, you're going to see the difference it makes in your life. Your life, and if you have a family, the life of your family. It will make a difference. You'll see it. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, I invite you to visit us on our Facebook page. If you have questions that you would like to have answered on this program, go ahead and visit us on the Facebook site. Put those questions in there. It might take me a little bit, but I'll get to them. We also have further Bible study materials on our website. And everything we put on there is free of charge, and you can download that information. And we'll make sure all the links are below. Thanks for watching today's program. If you want more videos breaking down, not my opinion, not the opinions of certain denominations, but if you want more videos breaking down God's truth for today, because that's what we're talking about, that's the relevance for today, go ahead and hit subscribe. Join us. We love to have you. Remember, God's commandments aren't just meaningless rules, they're life changing guidance for now and forever. The Bible is the most up to date book ever written. It's a new book, it's a now book for today and tomorrow. It's a book of truth, always the same, it never gets old. This is Michael Ellertson with the Holy Kiss. Until next time, goodbye, friends.